My name is Jason, and this is Just Watches. Alright, today we have the first Zelos I've been able to have on the channel, and I'm very excited. I've heard great things about the product and the customer service. So this is the Zelos Hammerhead version 3 in teal that was generously lent into the channel by a friend. So as always, we'll do specifications, pros, cons, and then if I think this watch is worth the money. However, before we begin, if you're enjoying the content of this channel, I invite you to subscribe, and if you like the contents of this individual video, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much. So a quick word on price and availability. As of this recording, this watch is available on the Zelos website, and you can pick this watch up for $449. So starting with the case, it's 44 millimeters in diameter. It is 49 millimeters lug to lug, but the end links do stick a bit proud of the case proper, so the true lug to lug is about 52 millimeters. It's thick at 15 millimeters thick, although some of it is that double domed sapphire crystal, and then it does have a 22 millimeter lug width here. So the style of the case, it's really a cushion case, but it's dialed up to 11. So for context, size for my 6 3/4 inch wrist, this weighs in at 201 grams. And then you can see it has that cushion case style, but it's very angular. You can see there's a midline running all the way through the case and the end links even that separates kind of the top from the bottom. And you can see light catches those different surfaces in very interesting ways. And then it does curve down. The lugs curve and then shoot almost straight down, and the end link comes almost straight down off the watch. So it does wear like a cushion case. It will hug your wrist. Just keep in mind it's a very bold, very loud, and very heavy cushion case. So the bracelet starts at this 22 millimeter solid end link. It does taper down to 20 millimeters before jumping back up to 22 millimeters on the clasp. The links are all brushed, and they share that angular style that the rest of the case have, and they catch light in very interesting ways. And then this clasp is extremely nice. It's signed with the Zelos logo. You have some nice high polish on the sides there, and it's the same style as if you're familiar with the Christopher Ward bracelet. It's a double push deployment. It's fully milled out here, but you have this double post system, which is very secure when it's closed, and then you have on-the-fly micro adjust. So you have about 8 millimeters here. You can push in if you want to make the bracelet a little shorter, or you can grab that little lever and pull out if you want to make the bracelet longer. So a very nice bracelet, especially at this price point. And then finally, sizing is accomplished with screw pins, which is very convenient. So the screw-in case back is going to help provide 300 meters of water resistance. You have some information there around the edge, and then these are individually numbered by Zelos. Check out that gorgeous relief. So you have two hammerhead sharks that are in sort of an ocean reef scene here. They're all high polish against a almost looks like satinized background, and it's just a very gorgeous case back with a lot of detail on this watch. And then this watch is powered by the Seiko NH35. That's a hacking, hand-winding 21,600 vibration per hour movement with a 41-hour power reserve. It has a stated accuracy from the factory of -20 to +40 seconds per day, but I find they generally run about ±10 seconds a day. And then this one has a quick set date, and they color matched the date wheel. So the 6 millimeter screw down crown is signed, and that Zelos Z there is also loomed, which is really cool detail. So it's heavily knurled, and it is quite easy to use and operate the watch with, and then the threading and unthreading action is very smooth. So the crystal is a double domed sapphire crystal with anti-reflective coating on the bottom, which is going to make the dial easier to read. And then you do get some distortion at the maximum viewing angle, and you can see it's slightly proud of the bezel. And then speaking of that bezel, you have an interesting multi-part bezel here. Starting from the edge, you have sort of a cogwheel finish to help you get grip on the bezel. Now, this is a 120 click unidirectional bezel. The action is smooth and consistent, although I do find it slightly tight. It's a little bit difficult to turn, but I think that might break in over time. But you can hear the very solid clicks, and then everything does line up. And then working in from that outer side, you actually have a ceramic insert, and then this bezel is fully loomed. You're going to see it in the Lumeshot. It's very gorgeous. And then moving in from that portion of the bezel, you actually have another brushed stainless steel area. So the bezel is quite large, and the effect of this overall is it makes the watch feel slightly smaller than the 44 millimeter case that it is, because the dial of the watch is smaller due to that large bezel area. And then one final detail I noticed, that inner part of the bezel there, that brushed stainless steel, it actually has 12 sides, and that actually corresponds to the case also has 12 sides if you count the end links as a side. So very consistent. I don't know if that was on purpose, but I couldn't help but notice that unity between that inner part of the bezel and the number of sides on the case itself. So the dial is that beautiful sunburst teal color. And there's a lot going on the dial that's really cool and becomes more obvious in the Lumeshot. Starting from the edge, that chapter ring, which it's that nice white that I think complements the teal of the dial, is actually also loomed. So you'll see in the Lumeshot, it's gorgeous the way it glows. And then you have the Zelos logo at 12 o'clock that's also loomed and will glow. And then you do have text below. You can see Hammerhead is written in that same teal, which is a bit of an odd choice. It sort of blends into the dial and you almost can't even see it. And then you have 300 meters, 1,000 feet of the water resistance. And at that 6 o'clock position, you do have that color matched date wheel. So great attention to detail there. And then placing it at that 6 o'clock, it preserves a lot of the symmetry of the dial. So the hour indices are very large, they're filled with lume, and they have a high polished surface, so they will catch light. And then they are the 12, 3, and 9 o'clock position, kind of retain that angular theme. You can see they kind of have a point at the end, and that does help orient the watch when you're trying to tell the time. And then the handset is also quite large. It's a kind of a paddle style set of hands with that very large hour hand, and then that nice long minute hand that's going all the way out to the chapter ring there. And then it's a little bit difficult to tell, but they are high polish, and the edges of the hands do angle down. So they will catch light sort of on the edge there, like on the minute hand, just on one edge and then the other. So some good dynamic light play with those hands. And then finally you have that long second hand. It's going all the way out, almost touching the rehaut of the watch. The only weird choice here is they also did that same kind of teal color on the end of the second hand, and it sort of just blends in. I think maybe if they used a complementary color, maybe yellow here, I would have liked that little splash of color, but nevertheless, that is the choice and the color they went with on the second hand there. So as you can see, the lume on this watch is unreal. There's enough lume here to make a Seiko blush. This is a combination of C3X1 and BGW9 lume that's super interesting and intensely bright. So popping it on the Timegrapher, you can see that minus 20 to plus 40 seconds per day. Factory spec is quite conservative. This one is running about 0 seconds a day with good amplitude and minimal beat error. So here is the watch on my 6 3/4 inch wrist. So 44 millimeters. It's a big guy and 15 millimeters tall. However, because of that cushion case, it does conform to the wrist. And I actually think I could pull this one off. The lug to lug doesn't really overhang. It's kind of just at the edge of my wrist. And then due to the fact that the case is large and the bezel is quite thick, the dial is small and it does make the watch feel a little bit smaller than its 44 millimeter diameter. So pros and cons, starting with the pros. Well, this watch has absolutely killer lume and 2 colors of it. It's just a spectacle to see at night when it is all lit up. And then second, it has an amazing clasp, especially at this price point. This is basically the same clasp that I have on my Christopher Ward, and I love that it has on-the-fly micro adjust. And then third, it's just super solid build construction. The watch is robust. The end links fit very tight to the case of the watch. You can tell it just feels like a high-quality product. So on to the cons. Well, there's a few weird choices with the text on the dial and the color on the end of the second hands, basically perfectly matching the dial color. They're a bit lost. I might have went with a yellow there or something to complement the teal. And then second, some of the finishing on the back of the case is slightly sharp. It would irritate my wrists slightly throughout the day, but this could be very easily remedied with some very fine sandpaper. So is this watch worth the money? Well, yes, I think you're getting an impressive set of specifications and features. You're getting killer lume, that on-the-fly adjustable clasp, a loomed ceramic bezel, an AR-coated sapphire crystal, and just solid case construction throughout. My only reservation for me on this watch, it's very big at 44 millimeters, it's very bold, and it is very heavy at 200 grams. However, if you like a bigger, bolder watch, this is definitely going to work out for you. So there you have it, the Zelos Hammerhead version 3. I was impressed with my first Zelos, especially the lume, so I will definitely look to try on some other ones, maybe smaller than 44 millimeters here. But let me know what you guys think about this watch in the comments below. As always, if you're enjoying the content of the channel, I invite you to subscribe. And if you like the contents of this individual video, please give it a thumbs up. That's all for this time. My name is Jason, and you've been watching Just Watches.